I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, happy Saturday. I get a lot of people that ask me, working with clients, and I get questions on my YouTube channel here all the time. They say, Owen, if you could give someone one piece of actionable advice, just one piece that would have the biggest impact on their life, what would it be? And that's really easy. I've done lots of blogs on it. That would be your attitude. Changing your attitude and having a positive, optimistic view on life. And it doesn't mean you don't complain, and doesn't mean you're not going to have setbacks along the way where you're going to feel a little bit disenfranchised or angry or disappointed or defeated. That's life. Of course you're going to have that. But people with the right attitude, that kind of thing is in and out of their consciousness pretty quick. And you have to work on this. I wasn't born, with a 100% positive, optimistic mindset my entire life. It's something that I developed. And it's something that what I kind of did, and what some of my mentors always kind of told me, is you keep that running narrative in your head. If you get into a position, and especially in my job, there's lots of setbacks, deals that collapse, financing that doesn't go through. There's all kinds of things that go wrong every day in my job and in my career. But you have this little running voice where, hey, if you feel that you're getting angry or losing your composure, that voice kicks in and says, Owen, you getting mad or you losing your composure here or not staying positive, is that going to really help the situation? And it's not. It never does. But it takes time to develop that. But I'm going to go one step further here. I'm going to give you guys kind of the 3 pillars. What I call, and I've talked about this many times in blogs on my Saturday blog here, but time for another one here. The 3 pillars to success, and what I think everyone should try and attain. There's 3 things in life. First thing we'll talk about is your attitude. So again, you've got to have a positive, optimistic attitude in life. And I just want to make sure people understand that, when you're going through life, if you're taking in a lot of news or a lot of doom and gloom stuff on Twitter or on YouTube, it's not even the fact that whether these, let's call them real estate bears that are calling for a market crash, which they've been doing for 30 years here, or a crash in the stock market or whatever. It's not even the point of whether they're right or wrong. They're usually wrong. The reason that they're pretty much always wrong and why I'm optimistic and positive long-term on real estate and the stock market is because the law of averages is in my favor. It always has been and always will be. In other words, the stock market goes up a lot more than it goes down in a typical year. Same thing with real estate. Usually real estate in any given year is up, not down. You're always going to get some down years and some years that it'll be treading water. But if you take a 10 or 15 or 20 year horizon, there's going to be a lot more positive years than there are negative years. So just go with the law of averages. But it's not so much that when they're in the short term, who cares? I've often said nobody's got a crystal ball. These guys certainly don't. But that isn't even the situation I want you guys to be aware of, whether someone's right or wrong. It's what it does, this negative mindset, this pessimism, this anger, this envy. There's a lot of envy involved when it comes to money and real estate. A ton. It's a minefield. It's not so much, it's what it does to your psyche when you take in this stuff. I've talked about this. It's proven fact. If you read any books on psychology or just mindset books on your attitude, when you take this stuff in, this negative stream of news and information, it's doing irreparable harm to yourself. I don't know if people even realize that. Because you're like a mirror. You take this stuff in, this negative news that the economy's in turmoil, interest rates are going up, we're all headed for a crash, we're headed for a recession. It's all doom and gloom. You take that in and then you emanate that out, like you reflect it back into light, into your environment, just like a mirror. So people can pick up on that and you get more of what you're giving out. You resonate this stuff. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people, fall for. They take in this stuff, this negative, and very soon it becomes them. They get into this dark place that it's tough to get out of if you stay in there very long. Life is going to throw you all kinds of curveballs. Nothing is perfect. The dark clouds we see today, you probably won't even be talking about them another year or 2 from now. They all come and go. There'll be another set of problems 2 or 3 years later. It just keeps changing. Successful people, winners, realize that. They keep a positive, optimistic outlook and keep driving forward. It's simple as that. I don't know how many more times I have to pound it home to you guys. If you want to see something really sad, if you go onto a YouTube channel or even onto Twitter with some of these perma bears that are, making stuff up for the most part, that Vancouver home prices are falling 30-40%, which they're not, of course. They don't know the difference between sales volume and prices. They get confused. But the even sadder part is the comment section in there. They're loyal followers. They're all in this cocoon of darkness. They're all, and what they do is they kind of, validate the guy that's putting this stuff out there. He thinks, you see, look at all these likes I've got. But the bottom line is, between you and I, guys, these guys are all losers, of course. They're all stuck in this black hole. That's not how life works. You've got to get out of that. It's really crazy. Some people realize this. Others, of course, never do, and they just go down the drain. So your attitude is everything. I've done so many blogs on this. I see all these wonderful comments that I get over the years here about people that, got out of that dark place and their life was a lot better. Attitude is everything, and this is something that I learned from one especially incredible mentor that I had. He always pounded that home to me, Owen, your attitude. You've got to be positive, optimistic, look on the bright side of things. It doesn't mean life is perfect. It's not. There's always things out there you've got to be aware of. But winners go through this. They focus on themselves. They focus on things they have control over. I don't have any control over oil prices. I don't have any control over the Vancouver real estate market or interest rates or the economy. Nothing. What I do have control over is working as a realtor, getting better as a realtor, saving my money, getting it to work for me in ETF, low-cost ETFs and good dividend-paying stocks, keeping good tenants in my properties, collecting those rent checks. Those are the things I focus on. I look at the bright, optimistic side on everything, and it's worked out really well for me over the last 30 years. Ask yourself, do you know any of these doom and gloomers? Are they really happy in it? Do they have a lot of success in life? You never know, because it's all opaque. They hide under fake names, and most of them do not have any success, or very little, I can tell you. So get out of that. Attitude is the first step. Second pillar here is buying your principal residence. I've done lots of blogs on this. If you're a renter right now, you guys know you're on borrowed time. You've got to be a homeowner. The biggest reason why you want to be a homeowner, there's two. And go back and watch my blogs on this. Take advantage of the leverage. You put 20% down, borrow 80% at a reasonable interest rate that you can comfortably afford, and you're taking advantage of the principal resident exemption. It's minted more millionaires and multimillionaires than all other sources combined. I've become a millionaire many times over just from selling a couple of principal residences. You guys can you could replicate it yourself. You buy a detached home on the east side, or a detached home in New Westminster or North Van, or buy a high quality condo and hang on to it for decades, you will become a millionaire. End of story. Renting, there's no option, there's no alternative to not owning your home. Now, I've said before, nothing wrong with renting short term. Until you can get the down payment funds together and get qualified. But you've got to keep an eye on that clock. You really do. If you're renting, you better be putting away some money towards that down payment and getting yourself in a position to get qualified. If you're not, if you're falling behind, you're paycheck to paycheck, I would advise you to make other plans. And that means maybe having to move out of the city. I know it's an incredible city, but you're not ready for it yet. Move out, regroup, go to a less expensive city, get a job that's paying you the same or more, that you can start saving some money. I have a guy who just did a comment in my YouTube channel here a little while ago. I've seen this many times. They moved out of Vancouver, gone to a less expensive city, bought there. Some of these guys will end up coming back in time. That's probably what you're going to have to do. But principal resident exemption, it's the only tax shelter they give us. If you're not taking advantage of it, you're nuts. As a matter of fact, you should be saving for the down payment on your house, as I've said, before you really start aggressively getting into retirement savings. If you're renting, retirement is on the sideline. Get into home ownership first. Watch some of the myriad of videos I've done on that in the past. Final thing would be max out your RRSP and your TFSA. Once you've got your principal residence, that would be the next step. Take advantage of the next best tax shelter they give us. They don't give us much, would be the RRSP and the TFSA. And I would go beyond that, depending on if you have a good pension at your employer, which fewer and fewer Canadians do. You're also going to probably start to need to put a fair bit of money into non-registered funds if you want to build any type of real retirement. After that, you've got your principal residence, you've got a good handle on your RRSP and TFSA. After that, you could potentially look at getting into investment real estate, buying an investment property, putting a tenant in it. But that's the fourth step. I've talked about this many times, the road to financial security. Sometimes I'll get people that want to buy an investment unit before they bought the principal residence. That's generally not the best way to do it, unless you're living at home, you're comfortable there, you're not paying any rent. You're going to buy the condo now and then stay at home for a while, rent it for now, and then maybe move into it later on. That's okay. As you guys know, milk staying at home as long as you can. Do whatever you can to get into home ownership. I milked kind of living at home about as long as I could. I don't know what your parents were like, but once I finished school, my parents started charging me rent, my dad did, as soon as I got out of school, to force me to start working and getting a job. But I did milk staying at home and working for a couple years, banked as much money as I could, and bought my first place. You guys can do that too. If you're comfortable at home, use that to your advantage. You need everything you can in this city for sure. But those would be the three pillars. Attitude. Buying your principal residence, maxing out your TFSA and RRSP. Those are the three pillars to financial success. But it starts with your attitude. The easiest one to do. It's everything in life. I'm an old guy. I've been around for a while. I've learned from the best. Your attitude will do everything for you. It will take you to places you never dreamed if you've got that proper mindset. Positive, optimistic, can do. When objections and when problems hit, which they will, it's life, they roll off you like water off a duck's back. You don't dwell on it. And you never, ever let these exterior factors or what people are saying on YouTube about the market crashing or the stock market, you never let those influence your thinking. You set up a game plan to buy that house, save for retirement, index invest, and then ignore it all. And tune out these perma bears. You guys know I've done so many blogs on it. I'm going to do more. There's a couple of funny stories actually that I'll share with you guys I think later this spring. There's just, it's hard to believe how dumb some of these guys are, but they are. It's almost a mental illness I think some of these guys have, and I'm sorry to say that, but it is. Get away from this stuff. Do you guys know anyone? I don't know anyone. I know a lot of very successful people in my life that I know and I've met. I don't know any of them that do not have overall a pretty optimistic outlook on things, because most of them are business owners. They've started businesses. They've started from nothing. They own real estate. Pessimistic people tend to be renters, and the reason they do this is because, final thing, I don't want to go too long here. Complaining and going to these YouTube channels and Twitter channels that complain about how hard done by they are and market's going to crash and everything's overpriced. It's the banks, it's the governments, it's the realtors, it's the foreign buyers. They love that stuff because it's easy. It takes all the pressure off them. You see, honey, that's why we haven't been able to buy a house. That's why we're living paycheck to paycheck. It's not our fault. David Eby's saying that it's all these boogeymen. I mean, it's an easy thing to do, to complain. It doesn't take any effort. Whereas what I tell you guys, to buy your principal residence, save for that down payment, get pre-approved for the mortgage, which isn't easy in Canada, start putting 10, 15, 20% of your income away and getting it working for you via low-cost index investing, that's going to take work. And that's just the way life is. That's going to be getting up at 5:30 in the morning. That's going to be maybe going back to school to get better, to get more qualifications, to earn more money. That's going to be maybe branching out with a partner and starting your own business, which is a lot of risk and a lot of late nights and a lot of unknowns, a lot of lost sleep there. That's what that's going to do. It's work. Just like if you want to become a high-level guitar player or an athlete, it's work. It's getting up, dedicating your life to it, and putting in the time and the grind. Losers look for ways for excuses. And it's really quite sad when you look at just look at the comment sections, guys, on some of these things, and that will give you everything you need to know. They're in this cocoon of, I can't relate to it because I've just never been like that. I'm just wired differently, but I've also, tuned myself. I've worked on myself to get better and better. I wasn't born this way. You've got to work on it. But what I'll tell you is, and I see all these comments in my YouTube channel of people that have done it, and I've got lots of clients that I've seen the transformation. Once you start getting some results, it will keep you going. You build up that momentum. It gets easier. It's just the first 6 months to 12 months. You don't see anything in the first few years, but that momentum will build. You'll just start to feel better about yourself. You'll be out of that darkness and into the light, and that's the only way to live life. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, have a good weekend. I'll see you guys next week.